Just here in Canada, 3/4 of suicides are made by men. Violent crimes made by men, mostly. Deaths, mostly made by men. Anything that has to do with mental health issues, statistically speaking, men. Abuse, men. You name it. Everything that can actually be empowering is the highest percentage goes towards men. And that in itself speaks a lot about men.
Welcome to the Awaken the Awesome podcast with your host, Olivier D. This is Awaken the Awesome, a podcast where we acknowledge that we are all in this together. Through enlightening conversations and personal insights, we like to engage with individuals just like you, who show us how they are bringing a little bit of awesomeness along their individual journeys. Our hope is to inspire you to always keep pushing and to stay awesome along the way. Hello and welcome back, Awesome Tribe. Today's episode is one of those recordings that I'm ready and willing to admit I didn't really know what I'd come out with on the other end. But when you see someone doing great work and giving their all for a cause that you also believe in, you reach out and say hello. I came across Malcolm's content a few weeks ago, and being an active supporter of men's work over the past few years myself, I felt compelled to reach out and show some love. As a coach and co-founder of the MALE MTL community and men's group, I had to tip my hat off to Malcolm for his involved and genuine commitment to creating a space of safe communication, bonding, and support for the men out there who truly feel they have no space or place to speak the truth of their emotions or concerns. Malcolm is one of those calm, genuine, and attentive souls that you just can't ignore. Our conversation, as impromptu as it was, stands as a true testament to what happens when like-minded souls choose to connect on a singular level of respect, honesty, and empathy. We touched on so many topics, ranging from shedding our destructive beliefs to connecting with our masculine as well as feminine energy, taking the time to know ourselves, and holding space with and for other men in this confusing and often overwhelming world. A powerful conversation, which I do hope you'll enjoy. So let's get into this. Awaken the Awesome, episode 169 with Malcolm, the masculine warrior. Here we go. I always like, just for courtesy wise, just to let people know what they're getting into. So where this started, basically, I have to tell in full transparency. This is just like 2 or 3 minutes of your time. This actually came from, let's call it a lesser fun place between the corporate shtick and now, where you realize that job was going well, career was going well. Like I said, I like to say it, paycheck was really nice, but everything else, not so much. And that's where you fall into the trap of, you've heard this before, I'm sure. You're an elevated mindset kind of guy. I'm fine. You know when you say like, how are you, brother? I'm fine. And you just wrap it up into a nice bow. You say, I'm fine. You give it to them and they walk away. So you don't have to talk about it again. So when I basically realized that something was coming to a head when my son was born, and I realized like a lot of stuff was eating at me, and I realized I don't know why, Malcolm, I really don't know why, but I know that this train was not headed for a good destination. I really did not know where it was headed, but I could feel that this was not this. I had to get off. I had to get off this train. This is my stop. So that's what I did. I just got off the train. I just changed careers. I just stopped working. I had a couple of months left on paternity leave, and I'm like, you know what? Why are we here? Why are we here? And I'm actually born Caribbean. I'm from Port-au-Prince originally. So again, there's that entire male ego that's there, right? I'm the second child, but the first son. And, I was not taking anything away from my father. He's the smartest guy I know to this day, but I was very much raised with those expectations. You take care of yours, you take care of your own, you take care of your family. You're the rock, you're the pillar, you're the provider. You need to understand that you have a duty to play. So that's where the whirlwind I was in. And I'm like, what am I going to do? How am I going to provide? How am I going to pay for this mortgage? Like, my God, I was working, I had a good job. And what is my wife? What is she going to think? And like, putain, me, I was like, what the fuck? It's like all this stuff was going on. And eventually I just sat there and I was like, you know what? Let's just stop. Let's just stop 2 seconds. Just stop, brother. Just stop. Let's just take care of right now. What do we need to do right now? Okay. What is important? What should we do? What is bothering us? And how do we not repeat these patterns? And this was a lot. That's why I shared with you on the DMs, like a lot of self-work, a lot of acceptance, and a lot of acknowledging that I'm not such a special snowflake that I'm the only one going through what I'm going through. And this basically was one out of maybe chronicling this journey of mine for myself, and understanding that, I can't be the only person going through this. So this basically was a way for me to, that's why I called it Awaken the Awesome, because I believe that everyone has a little bit of that they can give to the world. And I'm not talking like a la Tony Robbins or, Mother Teresa. It's not about always curing cancer. We are not meant to cure cancer. We're not meant to just like, just have the multi-million-dollar brands and stuff and everything. You can just impact your son, your daughter, your brother, your fellow man. And it's when these conversations, I realize that, what? No, I'm not alone. And one conversation at a time, I'm making these connections with regular people who have a story to share and who are doing a little bit of awesomeness in themselves. That was far longer than a 5-minute pitch, but this is where we are, my friend. Wow. This is where we are. And I just wanted you to know actually, like, where I'm coming from a very earnest and sincere place. And this is why I really wanted to connect with you. Because I basically got acquainted with your work via Danny, Montreal Uncommon on Instagram. Yes. I really enjoyed all the comments he was making, and he shared again, because I've been very sensitive to male issues, if you will. And it's meant a lot more to me over the past 2 years than it has previously, because I realized that not just through the pandemic, through a lot of reading and a lot of acknowledging for myself, Malcolm, men don't talk. I say this a lot. Men don't talk. And unfortunately, I'm realizing right now, this is just me. All right. Sounds woo-woo, but in the universe, I'm just feeling that we have come to a point where our brothers, our compadres need to speak out. And there is this need for them to actually breathe and express themselves in a way that hasn't happened before, because they're carrying so much weight of those, like, I was not raised to be asked, how do you feel? But this is something that I don't want to give to my son, not taking away from his masculinity. And these are topics I want to address with you. But I feel that you had a tremendously singular perspective on this new revelation that men are coming to. I'm sorry, I'm talking a lot, but I just want to, again, acknowledge you for all the work that you're doing. And of course, just recognize the importance of the work that you do, but also the sincerity that comes with it. Because I know it comes, I've only been following your work for a couple of weeks, but I know it comes from a very sincere place. And for that, I want to celebrate you and wish you, again, a very humble and powerful welcome to the Awaken the Awesome podcast. It's a pleasure to have you, my friend.
Wow. And that was a powerful start. I'm feeling goosebumps right now, going all the way up.
It's genuine. And it's genuine. And
thank you.
Thank you. It's really true. It's really true.
Thank you for not only celebrating me, but for sharing a part of you. And you were talking about how time for you is important, how the time of others for you is really important. But what you just did here is literally share a part of your life to me. And you gave me this part. You shared it with me. You gave it to me. And that is a beautiful and powerful gift. Because through this gift, I can relate to what you're saying. Through this gift, I can feel what you're saying. And I can literally put myself in your feet and feel what you went through. And that is why it's so important for us men to work together, so that we can relate and understand that, no, we're not alone. We're not alone. I love the whole concept, and I believe that it's very clear that we can say that in the collective there is an awakening in men that is happening right now. So a lot of men are going through this. People will call it midlife crisis, or call it I call it an awakening. Mm-hmm. When you're in your life and you've been building your life in a certain pattern or in a certain way, coming through from programming and conditioning, and then you come at a certain point in your life where you're like, whoa, this isn't me. Mm-hmm. This does not make any sense. Mm-hmm. Who am I? Where am I? And this is the men that come towards us. And I say us, the facilitators at MALE and the group. Mm-hmm. And, these men are looking for guidance, and they're looking for help, and they're looking for support, and they're looking for places where they can talk. So, yeah. Thank you again for sharing a part of you.
It's sincere, and I think it's the best way to start it for what you just said. They're looking for a place to talk, but and I just want to throw it your way because I've said this and I own it. I believe in all respect and no sexism whatsoever. But the same way the girls can get together and have their powwows and talk, and like it takes a woman to understand a woman, it also takes a man to understand a man. And sometimes I have those conversations with my wife. I'm like, I could explain it to you, and I know you're my wife and you're my partner, you're my lover, you're my ride or die, and we've been together and we're going to see a bunch of chapters together. But there are some things that you, as a woman, cannot understand. And I'm going to say this on this podcast. I'm not trying to create an entire, gender wars whatsoever. I'm speaking from my own perspective. There are issues that men go through that only a man can understand. And is it wrong to own up to that belief?
Well, it's not. It's not. And, I strongly believe, we're all we all have souls, but what makes our difference is our physical body, right? Mm-hmm. Men and women. And then I strongly believe in polarity, masculine energy and feminine energy. And we have both of them, but physically speaking, we're different. So in the end, yes, we need to relate to one another, and we can talk with our ride or die or with our wives or whatever. And yeah, we will hold space for one another. But in the end, there are things that women cannot understand about men and men cannot understand about women.
And that's okay.
And that's okay. That's perfectly fine. And that's the beauty of it. What we're saying, what we're seeing right now in men's circle and men's group and women's group is that we're doing separate kind of work where we can relate to one another. But then the real test begins when we merge women and men together. And that's where the real healing starts. So for me, it's really about, speaking of men's group, when we're in, it's all about rites of passage. So we bring these men, let's say the first retreat we did, we bring them out of society. We're between men. Mm-hmm. We make them go through all sorts of different trials. We don't call them trials. We call them like workshops or, but they're actual trials, for them to let go of these false beliefs of themselves and literally just go towards this rites of passage so that they can come back afterwards to society and act as men, become men. And so and actually even deeper than that, it's about creating the most intimate relationship with yourself so that you can create or build intimate relationships with others. That's what it's all about.
And you know what? Just hearing you talk about the fact that we need to figure out who we are, like we were saying in the beginning, for some of us, especially men, that job is incredibly hard because as much as we have been conditioned to weather the storm and face the obstacles and get after it and survive and provide and just be the warrior mindset, that's all fine because that's how we're bred. We're bred to, again, protect, provide, prevail, if you will. But at the same time, speaking from my own experience, taking the leap towards deconstructing everything that you believe about yourself. I see it as Legos. You've built up this Lego puzzle of yourself. And over time, what you're asking us to do, Malcolm, is to let's shatter everything we know. Let's take all the pieces out and let's reconstruct. And let's only put back the pieces that we want. And for some men, that is incredibly hard and incredibly frightful. Why Absolutely. Is that?
Well, let's put it this way, okay? First of all, let's look at our society. So the reason why I got into this men's work or men's coaching is because, 2 years ago, actually 3 years ago, I got sober. So I got into the world of sobriety, if I may say. I lived my life a certain way, which was the only way I actually knew. So I worked in the nightlife industry, in the bar industry, my whole life. And that's all I knew. And it's, I figured at that point that that's what I was going to do for the rest of my life. be in restaurants and be in bars. I can't do anything else. I remember having this conversation with myself.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was programmed into thinking that that's what I was here for. After 30 years, I was getting all these indicators inside of me coming out through depression, anxiety, addiction, that things weren't going the right way. And so I had a choice. I had to make a choice at that moment. Do I make the ultimate sacrifice, which is sacrificing my whole life, or do I decide to do things differently? So I chose the second option. I got sober. I got into therapy. And then through all the tools that they offered me in this therapy, I started doing a lot of meditation, started going inwards, started, reading about the subject, several subjects, especially spirituality. But then I got into a very simple but yet profound question that I asked myself. This is a year and a half in sobriety. I asked myself,
mm-hmm.
what does it mean to be a man? I literally remember I was walking down the street and I had done a lot of inner work and figured, I realized there was a lot of wounds relating to my father, a lot of wounds relating to the masculine in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And so I asked myself this question: what does it mean to be a man? And I couldn't answer. I could not find an answer to this question. So I started Googling the question. And then I started Googling for books. And I found a few books, started reading them, started getting to the subject. And by doing all this research, I realized that society, our communities, we live in a patriarchal system, right? And patriarchy is supposed to put men in power. So men are supposed to be in power. Yet, if you look at the stats, if you look at what's going on in the world, just here in Canada, 3/4 of suicides are made by men. Okay.
Yes.
Violent crimes made by men. Mostly. Deaths mostly made by men. Anything that has to do with mental health issues, statistically speaking, men. Abuse, men. You name it. Everything that can actually be unpowering is the highest percentage goes towards men. And that in itself speaks a lot about men. All right. So where does this issue come from? Is it from wrong conditioning? Is it from trauma? Where does it come from? Okay. So I realized through all of this research that there were two main issues with that. The first issue is the lack of the father in our society. And the second is lack of rites of passage. Okay. So these are the two main issues. And this is what they're talking about in all the research books. What happens in our society is that a boy never really goes through a rites of passage that will bring him from boy psychology to man psychology. Right? We just don't. It's not like women. Women go through their period for the first time, and there's this physical sort of rites of passage where they feel like a woman, right? And they're being told, you're a woman. Us men, we don't have that. Yeah, okay, we get hard, and then what? Okay, so there's no actual rites of passage that are being done anymore. Okay, and the lack of the father. When I say the lack of the father, I also mean the absence of the father. So what is an absent father? An alcoholic father, an abusive father, a violent father, you name it. Okay. Right. That is a huge epidemic in North America. Huge. Mm-hmm. And where does this issue come from? Well, it comes from their fathers, and their fathers before that. Okay. If we look at what the definition or how man was defined in the 50s, sort of named it, right? It's the American man, a hardworking, emotionless, strong guy, that only, that works hard and that gives to his family. Mm-hmm. Okay. And that was the actual belief. If you look at American movies, you see the hero especially movies in the 80s and 90s, they're all buffed up guys, no emotions, and just killing everyone, right?
Yeah, they can build a house with a toothpick.
Exactly. And that was the main model of the man. So people from the 50s started just modeling that man. And as you can see, it didn't really work out. Okay? It didn't really work out. So coming to the 70s, we had this whole movement of, peace and love and the hippies. So what happened there is that men got really feminized. A lot of men become very, very feminized.
Mm-hmm.
To the point where towards the 80s, we started seeing groups of pro-feminine men's movement. And then we started seeing all sorts of other groups that were related to men really being in touch with their feminine side.
Yes.
Now, it was a good thing, but at the same time, these men would really put aside the masculine. They would not harmonize their masculine energies, being fully in the feminine. Okay. Mm-hmm. So it's around in the 90s that a few psychotherapists started doing some work. They started these men's groups where they realized that there was a huge problem within men in North America. So they started doing these little men's group, a bit of everywhere in the US. And then from there, we had our very first men's circle, men's movement. And the whole idea was to bring these men outside of society and literally make them go through a rites of passage. Wow. Literally make them go through all their wounds and deconstruct their way of thinking and their way of seeing or their way of defining what it meant to be a man.
What it's meant to be a man.
Exactly. So we don't, what we do today or what I do today, I don't actually go towards men and tell them, hey, you got issues, man. You got daddy issues. You got to work them out. I'm a senior. Okay. I let them come to me. And the men that I really enjoy working with are the ones that have lost everything.
Okay.
Because when you lose everything and you're still alive, you're still breathing, then you're ready for change.
There's still that spark.
Yeah. Well, actually, it's all there is. I remember this quote. I don't remember who wrote it, but the quote says, when you lose everything, including your mind, there's only one thing left. It is your soul.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, and that's what I see. When people come to me and they're like, I lost everything, but there's still that spark, as you say. Well, that very spark is the soul. And I know because that's where I was.
You felt that. You've been there.
That's where I was. Yeah, I had lost everything, man. I was 30 years old, lived at my mom's place with my dog. I had lost my apartment. I had lost my girlfriend. Had no money. I was constantly gambling, just destroying my life slowly. Alcohol, cocaine, gambling, nonstop. So I was just sabotaging myself. I was destroying myself, slowly killing myself. And then one day I just had nothing left. And this is crazy because through my dog's eyes, I saw my reflection and I saw the spark. I saw the light. I saw light. And I heard this voice say, what are you doing?
Wow.
This isn't it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Because a dog will tell you, because it's often told that, a dog doesn't know how to hold grudges. He'll see you for who you are. If he likes you, he likes you. If he doesn't like you, he won't be around. But a dog doesn't hold grudges.
And dogs are powerful. Dogs are very spiritual as well. They're always in a present moment. They're very connected to energy. And it's literally like through his eyes that I saw my reflection, that I saw that spark and I saw that light. And I said, okay, it's time for change. It's time for me to do things differently. And so going through that's literally who I look for to come see me, because I've tried reaching out, and I've tried, having people come towards me and I listen to them talk and I listen to them talk and I listen and I'm present, but nothing changes.
Right.
Nothing changes because they expect you to do the work for them. Right?
See.
So that's something else. But a lot of people, they want you to do the work for them.
You can't. You can't.
And so it doesn't work. It'll never work.
It doesn't work.
So when you lose everything,
wow.
And it's crazy because I said this to a guy recently. He's writing everything that happened to him, and and how he fucked up left and right, and he has nothing left. And I said to him, "Congratulations! Now you're ready to learn. You're ready to learn." And that's really where change comes.
That's really powerful.
So I don't know if that answered your question.
Oh no, that's answered my question in so many facets. On so many facets, like you were just talking, and I'm like, I realize, first of all, there's a lot of work for us to do as men. And what I appreciate is the emphasis you put on recognizing your patterns. Because I'm not sure if you agree, a lot of us are on autopilot. We picked the nearest script we've had about being a man, and we just ran with it, And again, you can't shy away from conditioning. You can't shy away from nurturing. You can't shy away from exposure. You can't shy away from, just circumstances, your environment and relationships. All that shapes you as an individual and as a man, And you're talking about what they learn from their fathers. And when I hear you talk about patterns, it's something I worked on myself, not to make this about me, but just to relate. When I came to North America, I had everything that growing up in Haiti taught me in terms of survival and efficiency, because I don't have time for personal growth and self-help and mindset and stuff. But I had a father who was, as you said, present. He was on the road a lot because he's basically a civil engineer. So he was, on the road a lot. But when he was there, he was present. He taught us, like my brother and I, how to, not to be all masculine and stuff, but, just change tires and, just how to fix a couple of things around the house and carry bags and stuff, and how to be decent, how to express yourself, how to carry yourself, how to stand up for your family, how to, defend your brother if he's at a fight at school, a bunch of things that, shapes character. And that's always how he's carried himself. He still carries himself that way to this day. But also, I want to be very careful with that. You also understand you can't ask someone to give you what they don't have. What I mean by that is my father was raised military. All right. My grandfather was like straight shot, barrel line. You do it well. You do it once. You do it right. All right. So I can't, even I'm 40 right now. Right now, I'm having open conversation to my father about his childhood, how he grew up, what his relationship was with his siblings, that kind of stuff. But I don't think, what I'm trying to say is that you always have a choice as an individual. Like you said, I can't do the work for you, but you have to choose what kind of script you're going to give or write for your future generation and your offspring. I always take my son as an example. He's right there. He's 6. And I'm like, you know what? If he's crying, cry. Okay. You've been crying for 3 hours. Okay. We can stop now. All right. But I will not tell him like, oh, come on, stop crying. You're a boy. Like nobody cries. Like, no, I need to let him cry. I need to let him cry. He has not lived my life. I would probably get over it faster than he can. We don't have the same spec. He's not going to be the same man. He is not me. I can only give him the best that I can for the journey that's ahead for him. All right. And I want you to help us speak to the men probably listening, because there is a guy out there listening to this recording and saying like, yeah, but I'm afraid to admit all the work that needs to be done, because I've neglected myself for so much and I've made so many mistakes. What we need to tell them, Malcolm, if you can, help us bring ourselves to forgiveness, because there's a lot of that. There's a lot of shame. There's a lot of exhaustion coming with that. Like, look at all the time I wasted. Look at all the people I've hurt. Look at how I've neglected myself. Absolutely. How can we bring ourselves to forgiveness?
Wow. Forgiveness is absolutely the road to take. And it starts by going step by step. You can't just say, I forgive myself. No, it takes work, and it takes vulnerability, and it takes openness, transparency, honesty, that is a big one. That is a big one. Jesus was all about forgiveness. That was his main message, because what is forgiveness? It's liberation. When you're not forgiving, what are you doing? You're just accumulating more resentment, more hate inside of you. You know, a lot of that resentment, not a lot of that hate, isn't from anyone else than yourself. Like, who are you actually hating? Who are you actually rejecting? Who are you actually abandoning? Yourself. When you're not able to forgive, the only person you're going to hurt is you. And so, before going there, it's not only about acknowledging, it's admitting that there is something to work on. There is something that I have to change about myself. Once you're willing to admit that, then you can start welcoming it and then accept it. Because you can't just forgive, right? A lot of men have very powerful egos, me being one of them. And this false sense of self is built on limiting beliefs, fear, you name it. And that voice is so filled with resentment and hate that it does not want to forgive. Doesn't. No, because forgiveness would make you wrong. Right?
Wow.
Yeah, forgiving somebody else would mean that we're wrong.
We can't have that.
In a lot of cases. But it's not true. Being able to forgive is simply liberating yourself. Wow. Because who's being kept in a prison? It's you. You're keeping yourself in this hate, in this resentment, in this despair, in this turmoil, just because you don't want to forgive. That starts with the self. So yeah, man, it's a big question because I am still on this road. I'm still on this journey to forgiveness where I have to learn, of course, I have to learn to forgive certain aspects of myself. You know, for 30 years, or I would say no, for 15 years, I sabotaged myself. I hurt myself constantly. I put myself in situations where I was, I felt humiliation. I felt shame. I felt guilt. I did some bad things to people that I loved. I did some bad things to myself. And so I can't just easily forgive myself after a year, but I can start putting action towards this forgiveness. And I think that's where it starts. Because you can wait until you're really fucking fed up.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can try and put in steps before you're actually fed up. So where do we go? What do I do? Well, what part of you needs forgiveness? What part of you do you need? What do you feel more inside of you? Is it shame? Is it guilt? Is it hate? Are you a violent man? You full of rage? What's happening inside you? These are all indicators. Are you depressed? Are you full of anxiety? These are only indicators, okay? When you listen closely, these are indicators that things need to change. This is your body speaking to you, saying, hey, we are not in a natural state. We're not supposed to be angry all the time. We're not supposed to be sad all the time. Pardon me?
Something's off.
Something's off. Something needs to change. And that's a problem. A lot of us men won't listen to that. We'll just stay in that emotion, become that emotion. And that is where the issue is. You can't let yourself become the emotion. You have to understand that emotions are just passing through. You need to observe them and know that they're temporary. Right? But by staying in that negative emotion, you're keeping yourself in a low vibrational state. What that does keeps you in turmoil, keeps you in pain, keeps you in suffering. And if you're not listening to yourself, if you're not listening to your body, then you're abandoning yourself. You are rejecting yourself. You are not accepting the entirety of who you are.
You know, and I totally hear you. And this is filling me with so much clarity with the reality of what's going on. Because, and I'm pretty sure that for men right now and all the mental health issues that we're dealing with right now, I don't think it started with the pandemic. I only think that for a lot of people, it's, especially for men, it has exacerbated and only triggered or accelerated an inevitable outcome. We've been going down this hill for a really long time.
Oh, yes.
These are expectations that have been put onto us for a really long time. And we might be forgiven, other people might be forgiven, women, for saying like, really, men go through stuff? Yes. Really? Yes. Because, and I'm sure that these conversations are happening even more in women's group as well, where there are conversations where like, oh, okay, men do have a lot on their shoulders. Mm-hmm. Men do have a lot of weight to bear. All right. If we don't hold space for each other and lose this sense that we're supposed to go through it alone as warriors, that's why I like the scene in the movie 300, the Agogi, where they show you the boy has to go out and fend for himself, which is in itself a rite of passage.
It is a rite of passage. Yeah,
it is a rite of passage. But understand that he eventually came back to Sparta to be part of the group, to be part of the community. He didn't spend his entire life in the Agogi. You don't have to suffer alone longer than you have to. Certain experiences are yours to have and to hold. That is you. Absolutely. But I believe, and that's what I'm getting from your message, the fact that, you know what, we need to understand that these experiences are normal. We need to make peace with our demons, get acquainted with them, get comfortable with them.
Yes.
They do not own us. They do not define us, but they are part of our whole. And Absolutely. That is something that I believe that more men need to have. I believe that's what's happening through communities like MALE, through workshops the same way that you're founding, because men need to know, I believe, that we hear you, we see you, and it's no longer okay for you to think that saying that you're fine and still going back out there and being depressed and abusing substances and, just being angry all the time or like hating yourself for having to put in the work. Yeah. It's okay for you to stop, brother. And that's what we're saying, isn't it?
Absolutely. And, if I might, you just opened up a great subject here. Sure. Speaking of emotions, it's important now more than ever that men actually start getting acquainted with their emotions and that they actually, try and do some research on emotions. Because once again, these are indicators simply of where we have to go and what we have to do. And not only does it create more intimacy with others, it creates more intimacy with yourself.
Yes.
Being able to literally know what you're feeling and what you're going through. Because most men, we have like three emotions: angry, sad, and happy.
Yep.
There's more than that, right? And it's deeper than that.
Mm-hmm.
And another subject that you touched, is speaking of the inner beast or the inner monster that we have inside of us. And one of the work that I love doing with men is going in the shadow, and literally the shadow aspect of the self.
How do you do that?
So basically, if I ask you, basically the shadow is the aspect of yourself that you don't want people to know about you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's a really easy way to define it.
Yep.
So the shadow is usually the aspect that you don't want to go and visit about yourself. So if I ask you a simple question,
yes, sir.
What is it that you don't want people to know about you?
Right. For me,
there might be a few things.
Yeah, there might be a few things. But for me, I have realized right now that I have become exceptionally good. How can I put this in the right way? Don't want to waste your time. I'm just talking about my anger issues. I have become a lot more acquainted with my anger issues because for the longest time Olivier was very nice. He's so nice. He's so polite. He's so kind. He's so loving. He's so adorable. Like, always willing to help and taking on a lot of yes, dear. Yes, 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 yes. Sure. No problem. Yes, 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 yes. When behind the curtain, it pisses you off. You don't want to do this. You're tired. You're frustrated. You're annoyed. And right now, having come to terms with that, I realize that, forgive my language, I can be somewhat of an asshole. And when I put on that hat, I'm not the most pleasant person to be around. And I'm very good right now. I've accepted that in full. I'm respectful in that sense. But when I do not want to deal with the world, I make it very clear. So it's something that I don't talk about a lot. Only my closest niche people know this, but it's something I've become a lot more so, whether through my wife, whether through my kids, whether through my colleagues. I'd make no apologies for that anymore because I understand it's a part of me. It comes from a long pattern of just taking stuff in. So I'm still offloading that, but I know that, you know what? It's something that right now, it's probably something most people don't expect of me because you're just so nice. But it is a part of me that most people don't know, that I can have anger moments. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but you know what, Olivier? I think what you're talking about here is setting boundaries.
Yes, sir.
And that is that there is nothing wrong in there. Actually, it's a very powerful thing to be able to do. Because that's one, speaking, you said the word warrior a few times. If you look at the warrior archetype, the whole concept of the warrior archetype is literally setting boundaries. Okay, so I always make this little visual where if we speak of the warrior archetype, it's imagine the Great Wall of China. So imagine the Chinese warriors on the Great Wall of China defending the boundaries of their country against the invaders, right?
Yes.
That is warrior energy. Being able to set your boundaries and really set them from a place of love, but to protect your values, what you believe in, and your heart, right? And that's what you're describing me here. And that is a beautiful aspect to have. Now, if you look at shadow warrior energy, is not being able to set your boundaries or not being able to respect other people's boundaries and stepping all over them. Now that is negative shadow warrior energy.
Okay.
So that is definitely, like, if we look at the shadow aspect, if Olivier would say, well, I'm not being able to, I don't respect people's boundaries. Well, then that is a big shadow.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
But in every shadow, there is a gift. And that's the beauty of it. And that's why it's so important to go in the shadow. It's so important to go in that darkness or these aspects that you don't even want to see about yourself. So there's a lot of things that we're ashamed of and that we were ashamed of that wasn't necessarily treated. There is a lot of triggers as well, especially, for example, one question that you can ask yourself about your shadow is, what makes me have a crazy reaction? Which kind of conversations that trigger me?
Right.
Because when you get triggered, that's an indicator of your shadow.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
We're going to get triggered off of one thing. Usually triggers really come from wounds that were not taken care of or that weren't worked up.
Oh, that makes sense. For me, it makes a lot of sense. I can think of so many examples. Wow.
So for example, for me, like, one of my shadows is dissatisfaction. Okay. So throughout my whole life, I'm always dissatisfied. I always want more. So even with myself, always wanted more. Through addiction, I could never stop drinking, never could stop using. I always wanted more and more and more and more. In sobriety, what I want more of is self-growth. So in a sense, it can be a good thing because I'm always, seeking to become better and better and better and better. But then when does it stop? What is satisfaction for me? It doesn't exist. I'm always dissatisfied.
Wow.
So, but the gift in dissatisfaction that I've come to realize is that it's vitality, right? So instead of always being dissatisfied, I need to ask myself, hold on, every time that I'm becoming better, I'm actually acquiring something. I'm actually learning something. Okay. But how can I shift my mindset to dissatisfaction to vitality? how can I stop always asking myself, how can I become better? What is the best thing to do? So through some research called the Gene Keys, I realized that one of my main things in life is to be of service to people.
Okay.
So I shift my shadow energy towards being of service to people, so that I can no longer be dissatisfied, but always create vitality, ultimately bringing me to bliss.
Wow.
All right. So the beauty of the shadow, especially if we're in a reaction mode, is how can we transmute the shadow into something that is creative? I'll give you another example.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the best musicians, some of the best artists have created their pieces or their songs after something that happened, either a breakup, a fight, you name it, something that brought reaction or that triggered them. Right?
Yes.
So they were able to transmute this emotion of pain into creation. So for example, you're getting in an argument with someone, you're fighting with them, and you feel triggered. Instead of putting more fire onto this trigger, remove yourself. Just take a breather and remove yourself. And then whatever you're feeling, whatever anger you're feeling, just draw it or play it or dance it.
Laugh it off.
Or laugh it off, or just create. What does that look like to you? What does this shame look like to you? Draw it, create it. If you're a singer, if you're a musician, just play it. Right? Wow. And that's the beauty of the shadows, because there is a beast in there, but this beast doesn't want you to kill it. It wants you to tame it. This beast that's in your shadow, imagine it's a fucking dragon. It wants you to ride it to fucking battle.
It's part of, but you agree with me that it's a delicate ballet that you have to dance with that shadow, because either a lot of us don't want to deal with it and we practice just leaving it, okay, let it be, passing through, and we don't tap into that energy. Or, as you said, we use the beast and we have a very gut check reactions as well. And again, we blow out, or, we react in very powerful and sometimes damaging ways. So you have to recognize what you're doing at that moment. And that takes work. That takes work.
So there's 3 ways that you can work with your shadow. Okay. First of all, you can run away from it, which a lot of people do. They don't want to go there. They don't want to go and see these aspects of themselves. Ultimately, when you're doing that, you're rejecting yourself. You're not accepting yourself fully. So you can do that, which a lot of men do, okay, because it's easy to do, just neglecting it, pretending that it's not there. You can try and fuse with it. But the problem with fusing with your shadow is that what you've just described. Let's say you're on the dragon and you explode. So what you're doing here is that you're letting the shadow take over you. Okay. Or third, you can become intimate with it. Okay. So you want to keep a distance, but being able to see it and accept it as it is. So number 3, of course, is the best way to go. And to become intimate with your shadow, well, you got to start asking yourself some questions. Like exactly what are the aspects of myself that I don't want to see? What are the aspects of myself that I don't want people to know about me? And for example, a big one for men is their appetite for pornography.
Yep.
They don't want people to know about that. That's like a lot of shame around there, but that's definitely part of the shadow.
Yep.
Or things that were done to them when they were young, or you name it.
Emotional, sexual, physical abuse.
All of that.
That's very present in a lot of men's circles.
A lot.
I've gotten acquainted to a lot of men's circles and some people have been very intimate enough to actually open up to me in that sense.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but for some reason, a lot of people trust me to talk about these things. And I'm like, wow, it's very present. And some men die with those secrets.
Absolutely. Some men kill themselves because they never went there. They never looked at it. It is huge in our community. You just opened something up once again. It's crazy. This is why men's group and men's circle is so important, because if you can witness somebody say that to other men, well, that opens up other things in men.
Yes.
Okay. Because a lot of men think that they're the only ones that were abused when they were young.
They
literally think that they're the only one. And it is in this safe container, this sacred space. You hear one guy talk about it, then you're willing to talk about it.
Brother, I see you.
Yeah.
Brother, I see you.
I see you. Brother, I hear you.
I hear you.
That's
I hear you. And that's all we need, whether it's through a DM, whether on a Facebook group, even you're new to the podcast, but I'm just very, very vulnerable with you. I made a couple of episodes ago, I made an episode about the first baby we lost. And it's something that I never thought I would talk about on the podcast. Like I said, my intimate circle knows it's not a story, but I felt that by telling this story, because you hear a lot about, women losing a child, but you don't often hear about how a man deals with that. And I went into it full honesty, and I talked about it. The second I hit publish, the day after, I started getting DMs all over the place.
Yeah,
dude. I felt what you said. That happened to me too. Thank you for speaking my words. Thank you for helping me speak their name. I went back to the grave. I spoke about it to my wife. I cried on my drive home. I'm like, I didn't do it for that, but I know that if one man can feel okay to understand, no, I hear you. You are hurt. You are going through this. It's okay to be happy. It's okay to carry the joy, but the hurt is also a part of life. That doesn't make you a lesser man to admit that, you know what, on this moment, I was frail. On this moment, I did not have the answers. On this moment, I could not, just provide the necessary space to feel okay. And you know what? I'm no lesser of a man, but I'm surrounded by brothers, by friends who understand me. And all a man wants, ladies, hear me out. All a man wants is to be heard. All he wants is to be heard. He doesn't need a solution. Solutions will come after, but all a man wants is to be heard.
Yeah, just to be heard.
That's why your group is something that's very powerful. That's something that it's necessary. And it's going to take it's going to be a slow burn, because as you said, our ego is in the way, and it's generations of conditioning. And I'm sure you're aware of that. And it's going to take some time. And it's a very powerful mission, Malcolm. I'm just thinking about it. I'm like, this guy has got a lot of patience.
Yeah, man, it is definitely it's something that I've acquired, that I've cultivated. Patience and listening is definitely some of the reasons why I do this. It's because I'm able to listen, I'm able to be present, and I'm very, very patient. Sometimes I'm impatient with myself, though. And the beauty of it is that, we started this men's group not too long ago, and it's amazing how a lot of other men wanted to start their own groups. And that, I'm not saying that it's from our movement, but a lot of circles are being done left and right. And I've been speaking to a lot of these men that are starting these men's movement as well. And I keep telling them, there will never be a shortage of this.
Nope.
There will never be a shortage. I mean, go for it, do it, and just go. We need this. Everyone needs this.
We all do.
It's not only men. I ultimately believe that you help one suffering man, you're helping his children, his parents, his partners, his friends. You name it. You name it. You name it.
So true. So true. Yeah, because if he can be a better man, he can be a better brother. He can be a better husband, can be a better father, can be a better colleague, can be, there's so much that trickles down to that, and we're all the better for it. And for me, it's even a little bit more personal because, for me, it's also about Black men, Caribbean men. From my own perspective, I come from a very macho society. Haiti is still very much like that. It's about the patriarchy and nothing else. That's all you learn. That's all you know. So these conversations I'm having with guys of my generation, a little bit older, a little bit younger, I understand it's a new language, which is why when I'm on these groups, a lot of people are very cautious about how they speak. They don't want to sound too off-putting. It's like, dude, let it out. Say what you feel, whether it's the wife, the job, the kids, the money, the pandemic. You have to be okay. And because you're Black and because you're Caribbean, it's something that doesn't happen, which is why I'm talking about the slow burn, you know? But we're all in this together. We're only the better for it. Talk to me about, because I know you announced it recently on your recent IG, but talk to me about Invictus, man. What's it about? It's coming up soon, and this is why, of course, I wanted to have you on, because I want people to know about it, because it's a tremendously powerful initiative. But I want to hear from your own words. You know, what can we expect from Invictus, man?
So Invictus, man, is literally it's a 12-week program that I'm building. It's online. It's going to be, of course, for men. So it's a 12-week odyssey of literally going inwards. You know, I spoke about shadow. I spoke a bit about shame, and that first month is all about going inwards and looking at our wounds, but not individually. Yes, individually, but as a group as well. Mm-hmm. Through this, we are going to harmonize in our feminine energy, and really, really understand that we can heal with this energy. So we want to channel that in our first month. Our second month will be about going towards the masculine, harmonizing our masculine energy, learning all about the masculine archetypes. So there are so many archetypes, but I will put my focus on the king, warrior, magician, and lover. That's what we're going to focus on. And we're going to look at the archetypes in their fullness. So in their light, if you want, and in their shadow. And it's amazing. They're great anchors to have. And it's interesting to go in the archetype way, because it helps us define things about us. It helps us relate as well to certain aspects of us. And then the third month is going to be about really going in the masculine sexual energy, and how we've been conditioned to really, really put that away. And it's crazy, because when I speak to men and I ask them, what are you mostly ashamed of? And a lot of these men will answer sexuality or sex. So there's a lot of wound in this sexual energy. So the idea
they're
of the
ashamed of their desires, their thoughts, their words,
all of it, past relationships as well. Mm-hmm. And that in itself simply says that they're not in tune, or they don't know much about their own sexual energy and what they can create from that. And especially we're going to focus on pornography and see the damages that the damage that it's been doing in men's bodies and in men's mental health, because it's a big one. It's a big one. So the whole 3 month, this is just, I'm throwing this out there, but the whole 3 month is really about building the most important relationship there is. And it's the one with yourself. It's the one with yourself. We keep talking about, yeah, man, my ex was so toxic. I've been in toxic relationships. But the one thing we don't say is that the most toxic relationship we have is one we have with ourselves. And so men need to be aware of that. How can I change this toxicity and become intimate with myself and really accepting every aspect of myself, my wholeness, and understand that everything that I want, I have it already. I was talking about dissatisfaction earlier, how often we go into these relationships or partnerships and we want things from people. We want things from them. We're asking, I want this in my relationship. This is what I want. But in reality, what you're saying or what you're asking is what you want from yourself, because everything that you want, you can offer it to yourself. And if you're able to cultivate that, then you'll look at relationships in a whole different way. Whereas you come into a relationship seeing your partner fully as for what she or he is entirely, not needing or wanting anything from them, because because you're choosing yourself constantly. And if you choose yourself constantly, you will manifest someone that chooses themselves constantly. And by being in a relationship where you have two individuals choosing themselves, then you'll find commitment. Because people that are committed to themselves will commit to a relationship. Of course. And they'll commit through their love, through their honesty, through their integrity, not wanting anything from the other, but fully accepting who they are. But to get to that point, you got to accept fully who you are. And that's the whole aspect. That's the whole thing about the Invictus program, where it's about deconstructing, literally destroying the conditioning, the programming, the limiting beliefs, removing the fears, being aware of your shame, of your guilt, because they will come back out. But now you'll have tools to deal with it.
There you go.
And that's where the victory is.
Go through this alone.
Exactly. And that's where the victory is. Every time you react, every time you feel shame, every time you feel a fear or you're fearful, you bring yourself back. And these are the tools that I'm offering.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's basically what I've been going through for the past 3 years in 12 weeks. So we're going to meet, the group will meet on Zoom every week. And then throughout the weeks, we have modules that we'll have to do. I'm going to also meet every individual bi-weekly for a one-on-one coaching session. We'll have invited guests as well. A holistic coach, a great man that focuses on holistic health. We have a sound healer. She's amazing. She's an alchemist. She's all in the. I can't really explain what she does, but she's phenomenal. And yeah, more guests, and then it's all about accepting yourself as you are fully, and then forgiving yourself as well.
That's where it starts. That's the foundation.
And the Invictus basically means unconquerable soul. And I want these men that are jumping in the journey with me to connect to that unconquerable soul that everyone has.
That's spectacular. That's spectacular, man. You got me all giddy and stuff. Wow. And anyone needing to connect with you and get more information about the program, can we direct them any particular place?
They can absolutely on my Instagram account, which is the Invictus Man. And they can click the link on my bio, and they can get information from the program. They can also send me a DM, and I usually go for a Zoom call, and then we talk about it, and then they decide if they want to sign up or not.
There we go.
So,
you are a gentleman and a king. I want to be, again, very respectful of your time. I know we're coming up on top of the hour, so I just want to say thank you. For whatever these two words carry a lot of sincerity. I want to say thank you for your dedication. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for your ambitious vision, because this is not a chump change journey. This is going to take a lot of work, a lot of time, connecting with all these men who need to hear these messages. Conversations like tonight, I'm all the better for it. I am educated and elevated. And I just want to say, again, heartfelt for all the men listening and their significant others and the people who love them. Thank you so much, Malcolm, for taking this time with us and opening up our eyes to things that we might overlook, and just letting you know, open invitation. Anytime you want to be back, it's an open invitation. We'd love to have you back. Thank you very much for your time.
Oliver, it's a privilege, a real honor, man. I really had a great conversation with you. It's great connecting with you. I mean, I love your vibe. You're a very intelligent man. You're a very strong man. And, you're definitely one of the fathers that we will have to model. Guaranteed. Yeah.
Blessed.
Yeah, blessed, brother. And, puissance, all the best. Thank you so much.
That's all we can do. That's all we can do. One man at a time. That's
right.
We do have a running tradition on the podcast, what I like to call like the next step. Basically leaving the floor up to the guests, whatever sparks your inspiration. What I like to say, the next step, whether it's a personal mantra, a book, a song lyric, whatsoever, what anyone can wake up tomorrow and use as a next step to get to the next level. Can we leave the listeners with anything?
Yeah, well, there are two questions that I like to ask myself in the morning. So, actually, one is a mantra and one is a question. So, the mantra is, today is a glorious day, and I'll live it in excellence with limitless enthusiasm, and limitless integrity, true to my vision and with a heart full of love.
Wow.
And then the question that I ask myself, and this comes from Robin Sharma, the 5 a.m. Club. And then the question that I ask myself is, how can I be of greater service to humanity today?
Wow. That focuses your vision.
Yeah. And then I go towards I pray. So I pray in the morning. And what I pray for actually is I list 5 gratitudes in my morning. And then before going to sleep, I say 5 other gratitudes. So what I do is that I open my day in gratitude and I close it in gratitude.
Wow. Full circle. Yeah. Evergreen.
Full circle. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
If I can end this on that, is that we must remind ourselves that gratitude is the ultimate state of receivership. And when we cultivate gratitude, it's important to be very specific about what we're saying. Not just, oh, I'm grateful for this life. I'm grateful for this roof. No, be specific. I'm grateful that I woke up next to my wife this morning. I am grateful that I'm meeting Oliver Day tonight and having a podcast. I am grateful that, be very specific. I'm grateful that somebody opened the door for me today. I'm grateful that I helped this lady across the road today. Be very, very specific. Why? It's because if we can focus on these small things, then you're putting yourself in a state where when things come to you, they come to you naturally. And you can see it, because truth is there are things coming to you every single day. And if you don't take the time to stop yourself and welcome it and see it and feel it, then you're throwing away the best aspects of this life. So gratitude is definitely a big one for me. And I want to share this with you guys.
You have to.
Oh, and one last thing.
Sure.
If you can be grateful for the bad moments in your life as well,
and the biggest lessons are there.
The most difficult emotions, I mean, then that's a game changer for sure.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Guys, I'm not sure if you're feeling this energy through this recording. I know I certainly am. A tremendously engaging and ever so uplifting conversation with my guest, Malcolm. We can find you on Instagram on in the Invictus Man. The Invictus Man. Invictus Man.
Right.
I will definitely link it up in the blog post, guys, as I always do on the recording when the episode goes live. Guys, another episode of Awaken the Awesome podcast. Guys, go show Malcolm some love. Check out the Invictus program. If it basically seems like something that can answer those very burning questions and help you elevate towards, the enlightenment towards your own masculinity, please connect with him. He's definitely worth your time. Guys, thank you so much for defending and promoting this mission of the Awaken the Awesome journey. Another episode in the can. Thank you so much. Stay blessed, stay safe, and as always do, stay awesome.
This has been another episode of the Awaken the Awesome podcast. We always love to get your feedback, so please do drop us a line via Instagram, Facebook, or email. Our email address, awakentheawesome@gmail.com. Do visit our official website at awakentheawesome.ca, where you can find our entire back catalog of episodes and incredible guests. Also, if you haven't already, please hop on over to Apple Podcasts and subscribe, give us a rating, and leave us a review, as this helps us tremendously in growing this podcast and spreading the word to more awesome listeners like you. We always appreciate your support, and thank you for listening. Stay awesome.